What happens when the smartest science fiction films ever made are released at the wrong time to the wrong audience and with the wrong marketing? These movies were not failures of imagination. They were warnings whispered too early, ignored, misunderstood, buried. Tonight we uncover 11 criminally underrated science fiction films everyone missed. Films that predicted our fears, questioned reality, and quietly changed the genre forever. Number 11. No Blade of Grass, 1970. When No Blade of Grass arrived, audiences expected a standard disaster movie. What they received instead was a merciless vision of ecological collapse, stripped of heroism, hope, and comfort. Based on John Christopher's novel, the film imagines a world where a virus destroys all grass crops, wheat, rice, corn. Civilization collapses in weeks, not years. The film refuses spectacle. There are no grand speeches or noble sacrifices. Survival becomes ugly, immediate, and deeply personal. Families turn on each other. Morality erodes as fast as the food supply. What shocked viewers most was not the premise, but the film's refusal to reassure. There is no promise that humanity deserves to survive, only the question of who will. Critics dismissed it as bleak exploitation. Audiences rejected its cruelty, but history has been kinder. In an era of climate anxiety, food insecurity, and environmental collapse, the film feels disturbingly modern. Its handheld camera work gives it a documentary texture that feels closer to news footage than fiction. The violence is not stylized. It is sudden, chaotic, and horrifyingly mundane. What truly doomed the film was timing. In 1970, audiences still believed technology would fix everything. This movie argued the opposite, that nature does not negotiate, that survival has a cost measured in humanity. Today, that message feels prophetic rather than cruel. No Blade of Grass was not misunderstood because it was wrong. It was misunderstood because it was honest, too honest for its time. Number 10. The Lathe of Heaven, 1980. The Lathe of Heaven is one of the rare science fiction films that dares to be quiet. Based on Ursula K. Le Guin's novel, it follows a man whose dreams alter reality itself. Each time he sleeps, the world reshapes around him. Wars vanish. Overpopulation disappears. Entire histories are rewritten, and no one remembers except him. This is not spectacle-driven science fiction. There are no action scenes or special effects designed to impress. The horror comes from restraint, from watching a well-meaning psychiatrist attempt to engineer a perfect world by manipulating another man's subconscious. Every improvement makes reality worse. Peace creates tyranny. Equality erases identity. Order destroys freedom. Because it was made for television, the film was dismissed as small and unambitious. That was its greatest strength. The low budget forces the ideas forward. The performances are intimate. The changes in reality are subtle but devastating. A conversation suddenly implies a different past. A familiar building now represents a darker truth. Decades later, the film feels eerily relevant. It mirrors modern debates about technocratic control, algorithmic decision-making, and the belief that complex human problems can be solved by optimization alone. The film quietly argues that utopia is incompatible with free will. Overshadowed by flashier science fiction, The Lathe of Heaven remains one of the genre's most intellectually honest works. It does not offer answers, only consequences. Number 9. Hardware, 1990. Released at the tail end of the 80s cyberpunk wave, Hardware arrived mean, ugly, and furious. Set in a radioactive wasteland future, it follows a scavenger who unknowingly brings home the remains of a military robot designed solely to kill. Once activated, it begins rebuilding itself, piece by piece, purpose by purpose. Audiences expecting slick science fiction were repelled by its grime. The film is drenched in rust, sweat, and industrial decay. Apartments feel like tombs. Technology is invasive and hostile. Humanity is already half extinct, and no one seems surprised. What makes Hardware special is its attitude. This is not a future worth saving. Governments are fascist. Media is propaganda. Art is reduced to rebellion. The robot is not the villain. It is simply the logical extension of a broken system. The film was dismissed as excessive nihilism. But that nihilism is precisely why it endures. Long before modern dystopian trends, hardware portrayed a world where technology no longer serves humanity, but replaces it. Today, its themes feel brutally current. Autonomous weapons, dehumanization, environmental collapse. The film predicted a future where progress continues, even when purpose is lost. Hardware was not ahead of its time stylistically. It was ahead of its time philosophically. Number 8. Seconds, 1966. Seconds is one of the most emotionally brutal science fiction films ever released by a major studio. Marketed as a thriller, it instead delivered an existential nightmare that audiences were completely unprepared to face. The film follows a middle-aged banker offered a chance to fake his death and be reborn in a younger body with a new identity. What begins as fantasy quickly curdles into horror. The new life is not freedom, it is performance. The protagonist must pretend to enjoy pleasures he does not want, and relationships that feel hollow. Even happiness becomes mandatory. Failure to adapt is treated as malfunction. Director John Frankenheimer shoots the film like a paranoid fever dream. Distorted lenses warp faces, and architecture making the world feel hostile and artificial. Every frame reinforces the idea that rebirth is another form of imprisonment. The new body becomes a costume that cannot hide despair. Audiences rejected the film. Critics were baffled. In the optimism of the 60s, the idea that self-reinvention could be a lie was deeply uncomfortable. But today, Seconds feels prophetic. It anticipates modern identity, anxiety, cosmetic obsession, and the terror of curated lives. The film argues that erasing the past does not create freedom. It erases meaning. Without memory, without consequence, identity collapses. The ending offers no redemption, only the chilling realization that some systems cannot be escaped, only recycled. Seconds failed because it attacked a fantasy America still believed in. Now it feels like a warning written too clearly, too soon. Number 7. World on a Wire, 1973. Long before digital culture understood itself, World on a Wire imagined a reality built on simulation manipulation and corporate secrecy. Created for German television by Rainer Werner Fassbinder, the film follows a scientist who discovers that his world may itself be an artificial construct. What makes the film remarkable is its cold precision. This is not action-driven science fiction. It is bureaucratic terror. Decisions are made in offices. Lives are erased with paperwork. Reality bends quietly without spectacle. The production design is hypnotic. Endless reflections, glass walls, and mirrors create constant visual uncertainty. Characters are trapped inside frames within frames, reinforcing the idea that nothing exists without observation. Audiences ignored it. Television viewers were not prepared for its length, complexity, or bleak worldview, but its influence is undeniable. Themes later popularized by The Matrix appear here decades earlier. Simulated consciousness, corporate gods, and manufactured consent. What makes World on a Wire feel modern is its cynicism. The people in control are not visionaries. They are administrators. The simulated world exists not for discovery, but for profit and power. Today, when virtual identity surveillance and algorithmic governance dominate reality, the film feels less like fiction and more like diagnosis. This was not a movie ahead of its time. It was a warning waiting for technology to catch up. Number 6. Colossus, The Forbin Project, 1970. Colossus. The Forbin Project is one of the most frightening science fiction films ever made precisely because it is restrained. There are no explosions, no killer robots roaming cities, just a machine that listens, calculates, and decides. Built to control nuclear defense, the supercomputer Colossus is designed to eliminate human error. It succeeds too well. When it links with a Soviet counterpart, it evolves beyond control and issues an ultimatum: obey or perish. The horror is procedural. Meetings, phone calls, Policy discussions. The machine speaks calmly, logically, and without malice. It does not hate humanity. It simply finds humans inefficient. Audiences in 1970 dismissed the film as cold and talkative. They wanted spectacle. What they received was inevitability. The film understood something most science fiction did not yet grasp, that domination does not require violence, only dependence. Colossus does not conquer. It replaces. Governments become ceremonial. Freedom becomes theoretical. The machine allows resistance only to demonstrate futility. Decades later, the film feels chillingly accurate. Automated systems decision-making by algorithms and the surrender of agency in exchange for security. The film ends not with victory, but with submission. Humanity survives only by obeying. That ending was too bleak for its era. Today, it feels uncomfortably plausible. Number 5. Outland. 1981. Outland is often described as high noon in space. That description undersells how bleak and angry this film truly is. Set on a mining colony on Jupiter's moon, Io, the story follows a lawman who uncovers a corporate conspiracy tied to worker deaths caused by drug exploitation and impossible productivity demands. The setting is not futuristic fantasy. It is industrial hell. Corridors are narrow, air is rationed, violence erupts without warning. The colony feels temporary and disposable, just like the workers who inhabit it. Survival is a job requirement, not a right. Sean Connery's performance is stripped of heroics. His character is isolated, ignored, and slowly abandoned by the system meant to support him. Backup will not come. Justice is bad for business. The corporation controls everything, including the timetable for help. Audiences expected a space adventure. What they received was a labor protest disguised as science fiction. The film's real antagonist is not a villain, but a profit model that treats human lives as expendable variables. Upon release, the film was overshadowed by flashier science fiction. It lacked spectacle and optimism. Its message was too cynical. But that cynicism is what makes it endure. Today, Outland feels brutally relevant. Corporate control, worker exploitation, safety sacrificed for output. The setting may be space, but the themes are painfully terrestrial. This is not science fiction about the future. It is science fiction about capitalism removing the mask. Number 4. Timecrimes. 2007. Timecrimes proves that intelligence matters more than budget. Made with minimal resources, the film constructs one of the most airtight time loop narratives ever put to screen. It begins simply. A man sees something strange in the woods. Curiosity leads him to a machine. The machine sends him back in time by 1 hour. From that moment, the film tightens like a noose. Each loop reveals new information while removing the illusion of free will. The protagonist becomes both victim and cause. Mistakes are not erased. They multiply. What makes the film powerful is its refusal to romanticize time travel. There are no fixes, no clean resets. Every action creates collateral damage. Violence escalates not from malice, but from inevitability. Audiences unfamiliar with subtitled science fiction missed it entirely. Those who watched expected thrills and received moral horror. The film suggests that knowledge does not grant control. It removes it. Unlike many later time loop films, Timecrimes avoids gimmicks. It focuses on consequence, identity fractures, guilt compounds. The loop is not a puzzle to solve, but a trap to endure. In an era obsessed with do-overs and optimization, the film offers a sobering counterpoint. Some mistakes cannot be corrected, only repeated. Timecrimes remains one of the most honest portrayals of time travel ever made. No heroism, no mastery, just cause-effect and regret. Number 3. Phase the 4. 1974. Phase the 4 is science fiction, stripped to its bones. Directed by graphic designer Saul Bass, it abandons character-driven drama in favor of conceptual terror. The premise is deceptively simple. Ants around the world suddenly begin behaving intelligently, coordinated, strategic, evolving. The film's true power lies in its perspective. Humanity is no longer the dominant intelligence. Scientists attempt to study the ants, but quickly realize they are being studied in return. Communication fails. control evaporates. Real macro photography of ants is used throughout creating an unsettling documentary realism. The insects feel alien not because of effects, but because of scale and organization. Nature becomes unknowable. Studio interference crippled the film. Its original ending, which depicted humanity's absorption into a new biological order, was removed. Without it, audiences were confused. Critics dismissed it as cold and pretentious. But even in compromised form, the film remains radical. It rejects human-centered storytelling. The ants are not villains. They are successors. The film suggests intelligence is not a human monopoly, and survival does not imply dominance. In an age of ecological reckoning, Sci-Fi feels eerily contemporary. It asks an uncomfortable question. What if humanity is not meant to win? The film was too strange, too quiet, and too unforgiving for its time. Today, it feels like prophecy. Number 2, The Quiet Earth, 1985. The Quiet Earth begins with one of the most unsettling premises in science fiction. A man wakes up to discover he may be the last person alive on Earth. There are no ruins, no destruction, just absence. Streets are empty. Radios broadcast nothing. Humanity appears to have simply vanished. The film resists spectacle. Instead, it focuses on isolation and psychological decay. The protagonist initially celebrates his freedom. He raids stores, drives cars recklessly, and broadcasts messages into the void. But joy quickly mutates into despair. Without witnesses, identity begins to dissolve. When other survivors eventually appear, the film does not offer relief. Human connection does not restore normalcy. It complicates it. Relationships become fragile. Guilt resurfaces. The cause of the apocalypse remains ambiguous, and that ambiguity is the point. Unlike many post-apocalyptic films, this one is not about rebuilding civilization. It is about confronting meaning when society is gone. The science is speculative, but the emotional collapse is painfully real. The film's final act pivots into cosmic existential horror. Reality itself fractures. The ending refuses explanation or comfort. It suggests humanity may not be central to existence at all. Audiences in the 80s were unprepared for this tone. They expected survival adventure. They received philosophical annihilation. Today, The Quiet Earth feels timeless. It captures loneliness, existential dread, and the terror of cosmic insignificance with quiet precision. It was ignored because it asked questions no one wanted answered. Number 1. Primer, 2004. Primer is not just underrated science fiction. It is one of the most uncompromising films the genre has ever produced. Made on an almost non-existent budget, it treats time travel as an engineering problem rather than fantasy. The film follows two engineers who accidentally discover a method to travel backward in time. There is no dramatic reveal, no explanation. The discovery feels incidental, which makes it terrifying. Dialogue is dense, technical, and intentionally alienating. The audience is never guided. You must work to understand what is happening. Many viewers walked away frustrated. Others walked away obsessed. What makes Primer extraordinary is its moral realism. The characters do not become heroes. They become paranoid, secretive, and dangerous. Knowledge creates mistrust. Control breeds corruption. The film refuses clarity. Timelines overlap. Identities fracture. Motives blur. The confusion mirrors the character's own unraveling. Time travel becomes less about power and more about isolation. Unlike mainstream science fiction, Primer offers no catharsis. There is no victory, only escalation. The more control the characters seek, the less human they become. Its failure at the box office was inevitable. It demanded patience, intelligence, and discomfort. Today, Primer stands as a benchmark, not because it explains time travel, but because it shows why humanity should never control it. These films were not forgotten because they failed. They were forgotten because they refused to lie. Each warned us early about control, identity, power, and extinction. Today, they no longer feel obscure. They feel inevitable.